What's up, guys? I'm Sundown here, and this is Full Red. I'm joined tonight, as always, with my co-host Waldo and our very special guest, the coach of NBS Gears of War's team, RyanFoolz. Ryan, how are you this evening?
Fantastic. Thank you for having me, guys.
Yeah, glad to hear it. Waldo, how's your evening been so far?
A little hectic, but I got it all situated now, so we're all good.
That's good. Glad to hear it. So, our topic for this evening is a quick look at the final invitational teams as well as the organizations who have picked them up, and then looking at what teams might be able to challenge for some of those top 8 spots later on in the season. So, the final teams that are joining Optic, NVS, and formerly Dream Team, now E United, are Team Elevate. And then who's the other U.S. team who's there with them? Energy, that's right, who just got picked up. Formerly Sleepy Times team.
Tragedy.
Yep, Tragedy, their own self-brand, which good for them. I think they are one of the teams who is very well deserving of a high-quality org. And then the international teams of Mindfreak Pro from the Asia/Oceania region, who very well-known players in their own right. The Splice team from the Latin America region, the Mexican team, and then the new French team who just came in, Supremacy, or no, it's not Supremacy, it's Vitality. I apologize. Vitality, the Italian team,
right?
French.
Okay, thank you. French. All right, so Ryan, I know you just came back from a trip over the pond. Do you want to speak a little bit about the European scene?
Yeah, Europe was amazing. It was really fun. It was cool to see kind of a LAN environment and see how all of their teams play, right? Sometimes we see their pro teams, but we got to kind of go there and see kind of how Europe plays as a whole, which is really cool. It's much different than how our teams play. I would say that they have a lot of work to do to get up to the caliber of North American teams. But some of the teams had the right mindset. They were really receptive to some of the advice we gave them. So I think that you're going to see an improvement in the European scene, especially now that there's going to be some more competition between North America and Europe to get some better practice. But what I can say is the European teams do not lack skill by any means, and they take pride on that. However, they do lack in the mental game quite a bit. They lack in the strategical side, and so that's what they really need to focus on, especially teamwork, if they do want to compete with our teams. Because right now it's just not there. Vitality was the team that we played in the finals at the EU Open. Incredibly skilled, definitely skilled than most North American teams, but they didn't necessarily have the same kind of teamwork. They like to push a lot. They like to take fights. They pride themselves in their shotguns a lot. But I don't think it's going to be enough to necessarily beat some of the top North American teams yet.
So do you think that a lack of mental game is going to translate poorly over to execution? It's going to set them farther behind on the curve? Because we know North America has always kind of set the standard with their execution gameplay, but do you think the fresh slate is going to benefit Europe more, or kind of hinder them a little bit from what you've seen?
I don't want to rag on them because again, I thought they had some really good players, but I think escalation is going to be a lot more teamwork oriented and a lot more mind game oriented rather than skill. And so, again, as long as they practice correctly and they focus on the right things, they can do it. But I'm not going to sit here and say escalation is going to necessarily benefit them any differently than it would for North American teams.
Gotcha. That's definitely understandable. One of the teams that's going to be challenging this Vitality team is Elevate. Waldo, I know you've seen a lot of them play, seen them kind of come up through the scene. What's your opinion of this Elevate team?
They're very raw still. I guess would be I like raw because I don't want to say like they're young, so they're very aggressive and still in that sense, and they're not very rounded in how they execute at fast-paced gameplay. They are one of the better teams I think that we've seen online and just how they execute. Like if they pick up an advantage, they totally take the advantage and run with it, and they execute their strats great. But if they're playing from behind, they seem to struggle a little bit, especially on maps where it's required to team fire and it's not something pushing. Uh, Into escalation, I think that's a problem because you have to be able to team fire and control the map even under pressure. So I don't know how we're looking in the translation of that. I think that they're overall like individually mechanically very skilled players. I think they have a lot of potential to be very good, but they need somebody like a coach or an analyst, someone who has a lot of experience to kind of round them out and slow them down when they need to, because you have to be able to play a slow game in escalation. Like, you have to be able to set up where you're going. You just can't go, oh, we're taking this hill, and then completely forget that there's two other hills that you have to take, or there's power weapon spawning and things like that. So I think that that's where they're lacking right now, but we'll see how they develop as they go on.
Ryan, have you guys run across them much? What was your opinion of Elevate?
Um, it's tough. I watched them at Columbus. Strangely play with that team, obviously. Um, they don't play the same on LAN as they do online. They'll probably get mad at me. They'll probably tweet at me, whatever. They don't. It's much different. They're very confident online. And UE is a game where it rewards the aggressor in a lot of cases. So their overly aggressive play can bid them pretty well. An example, we were asking about Vitality earlier, right? That'd be a funny matchup to watch because Vitality kind of plays like Elevate, right? They like to push a lot. They like to use their individual skill, but like Vitality is more skilled than Elevate, right? So if that were to be the matchup, I would take Vitality. Now, would I take Vitality against like United? No chance in hell. But I would take them against a team like Elevate. So it's going to be funny to see how the matchups play out. Again, the Elevate kids are incredibly skilled. Kraz is really skilled. That's their new pickup. I'm not sure who they're playing with. I think they're playing with as a fifth. I'm not necessarily sure. I just know kind of the four they're playing with in the qualifiers. But they seem to have composure problems at the tournament. And I think again, escalation is gonna, composure is gonna be a big key too. So they have to. I don't know if it's a coach. I don't know if it's a new leader. I don't know what it is, but I think they do have some work to do because I think they're trying too hard to like be these like villains of Gears right now and like be these like, oh, we're so hated, like you fear our skill, we're so hated, but that's not really like a winning formula.
Yeah, and I've definitely seen from what I saw at the Columbus event, they were a lot more hesitant to take those assertive one-on-one fights. When you watch them streaming, it's push everything, kill everything. Like,
Right.
I'm better than the person I'm playing against. Like, I'm gonna beat them. It'll be interesting to see if they can kind of harness that. But one of the things you touched on in particular was the transition from online play to LAN play. Another team that is, I don't even want to say notoriously good for being online because that would be doing it an injustice. They are just downright fucking disgustingly dirty online. Is Sleepy Time and his crew over at Energy? Like, and I referenced this before, right? Before we started the show, even going back to like 2007 GBs, like Twisted Shot, Sycamore, they have been very good when they play online. They will hit their shots. They will find ways to press you. They'll find ways to be the aggressor, and they've always just been trucks. But now it's kind of gotten to the point where they aren't just an online team. We saw when they did compete in season one as Onslaught, they pushed the then Swarm team, I believe, right? They pushed them absolutely to the brink. It was 3-2. It was back and forth. And until a rather decisive last map from Mental and crew, they were right there with them. So do you think they're going to have what it takes to really come back and make an impact in the scene now with the backing of Shaq, A-Rod, and Energy?
Yeah, I mean they also like I said they did put denial I think to game 5 at season 1. They put us to game 5 at season 2. They always get very close but never seem to quite get over the hump. Not sure what it really is the reason for that. I spoke about a bit about this before we got on, but I don't as much believe in the whole factor of like, online warriors are like a huge drop off anymore. Not saying they're online warriors, just the whole idea that, back in the day, Gears 1 and Gears 2, right, people would drop off a lot on LAN because the games were drastically different from online to LAN. Now we play on like servers and we have much more stable internet connections. So the game from online to LAN is much, much closer than it was back in the day. So now what separates, online people is more so like the nerves and, people missing shots more than it is like the game is different for them. I do think they're a really good team. I was really impressed by Franco. I actually tweeted at the event, like, Franco was one of the most impressive players for me that event. He surprised me the most. So I think that's a really good pickup for them. I think that Escalation is going to benefit them actually a lot because Excels is really good in the respawn environment. He's kind of like a general out there, and I think that he has a really good grasp. He's one of those guys who's like really, really good at every game he touches, and so I think he has a good idea for Call of Duty and Respawn and Halo already. He's a great Halo player, and so I think that he understands Respawn very well and will be able to kind of put the troops where they need to be and kind of control the entirety of the map at all times a lot better than a lot of other leaders can. So I do think that that's going to actually help them. But I think they, for the most part, proven themselves on LAN, and I do think they're a legit team.
Yeah, and one of the other things, Twisted and Sycamore, I know I played them at Hype 2 as well back in Gears 3. They struggled a little bit in King of the Hill, but one of the things they did absolutely phenomenally in Gears 3 is roaming around in those 2 or 3 person packs. Like they did that as well when they play Execution, is sometimes they'll let Twisted kind of sit off on the side, have a sniper, which is absolutely deadly with, and then maybe one person will be watching his flank, then they just send 2 other people out hunting. They're not necessarily looking to execute like a coordinated push, but they're looking for something or someone. If they find it, they're confident enough, even if they run into a 4 person trap, that they'll be able to trade evenly, or they'll be able to rotate out and get back to the rest of their team. I've experienced them doing that on land in Gears 3, and it was scary. So the idea of them then being able to execute on that in escalation with their improved team coordination and the fact that they're adding player like KO and like Excels, like that's pretty scary to me. Uh,
Yeah, the skill is there, 100%. And like I said, I think that Excels is going to be the real reason that this team does so well, because I think that he's going to have a really good handle on escalation.
You brought up
yeah,
a good topic about the shot calling aspect of that, and I don't think we've ever really touched on it because there hasn't been too many. I mean, tears one that comes to mind for like in-game shot callers that are just like you go here, you go here. So it's kind of like, are there any other teams that have that level of shot calling aside from Excels that you know of that are like vocally you do this and everyone's like, okay, that's the plan.
Um, I mean, if I think about it, I mean, obviously, like we use Fran as we
I
kind
was
of call
about to
like,
say
Yeah, hands. Yeah.
Fran did that. I know he did it for a while. I can't speak to recently because I'm assuming over the course the team dynamic probably changed. But I know at least at the start, what I saw from Fran is he was always very much like that, even when he was playing on Vision back in the day.
yeah, I mean, we call it like the North Star theory almost. Like he's kind of like our North Star in game. We kind of look to him to be the lead shot caller in game, and then he likes that role himself. Are we necessarily going to do that in Gears 4 with it being 5v5? I don't think as much. They're really big maps now, so one person can't always see the whole map. And that's why we picked up our unnamed fifth that I can't say yet, even though everyone knows, because they're also,
Unnamed.
yeah, they're also very smart in that aspect, and kind of helping us, formulate what a good push is, and kind of calculate things out. So I think that we'll be. I think we're going to be pretty good at it. I'm obviously going to put as much work as I can into the game type as well, to make sure that we're kind of ahead of the curve. Yeah, I'm curious to see how some other teams do that, especially because not every team has a defined like in-game leader.
Well, I know Demo for his team is very vocal. He always has been, regardless of if it's an actual like in-game like calling strat leader. But I think he's gotten to the point where he is mature enough as a player to recognize where there are advantages, to recognize where he needs to fall off, and when other people are in danger. I've seen him step up into that role, but I mean, it's really been a while since having someone who definitively focuses on shot calling has mattered in Gears. Right, like that's again. We discussed this a little bit last week. Like after Gears of War 2 Title Update 3, like you didn't need somebody who specialized in strategy and strat calling and controlling the pace of the game, because that was generally figured out for you. There was 5 or 6 strats with a couple variants you could do, and then it came down to how well you executed on them and whether or not you were able to put it in place when it mattered. Like that's what the game came down to. So now shifting into a not only brand new game, which always throws a ruffle in it, but a brand new game mode with another player on the map and different mechanics. Like I think the type of players who are able to see the larger picture over the course and control the pacing are going to become much, much, much more valuable. And it has been a while since, hell, those players were even required for a team to be decent.
Well, it's just
Yeah,
it's behind the scene though. I mean, it's been how the scene developed. Like we kind of fell off and went into that purgatory thing for a couple years, but there wasn't really a scene. It was kind of like more locals, and there wasn't a requirement to have in-game leaders or have someone like, hey, this is a strat call. This is what we're going with. It like certain teams were really good in Gears 3 at like King of the Hill and stuff, but it wasn't the same level as what it's going to be in Escalation, where you actually have to be like playing it like a chess game. You have to know what you're doing a couple rounds ahead. If you fall behind, like what weapon are you going to go to? What area of the map are you going to prioritize? What weapons.
Like, what is your curveball? Like, what is your changeup? You can't just keep doing the same thing you're doing. Like, how are you going to dictate the game to allow yourselves to get back in it, or are you just going to lose more? Like, and I think there's a lot of players who haven't ever even thought about putting that much thought into the game. Like, I remember, I can still probably pull out some of my high school and college notebooks, and if you go to the back pages of all of them, like, those aren't school notes. Like, they're gear strats for, like, each map. Like, I remember when I was on N3 in Gears of War 2, we had like 6 strats for each side with like 2 variants for each one, each person with like a coordinated and timed smoke grenade, and that's what our team was. Like, none of us were particularly good. Like, none of us were amazingly skilled players, but like, we were coordinated, and I was able to like call out where people would go, and we were like consistently able to show up at local events and do like okay at MLG events, and that was based off of our strategy and game pacing. So I'm really excited to see if that's going to be a possibility. Waldo, you'd spoken about Mind Freak and Splice a little bit. What are your 2 thoughts on those 2 teams, and do you think they have a shot to beat really anybody at the Invitational at this point?
It really comes down to the bracket, I think, and how it like seeds are drawn, because I can't see them doing like North America top 5 seeds, everybody else 3 to 5 or 6 through 8. I'm like, I'm sure there'd be a random group draw.
I thought I read that us, like the Optic, us, and United are the top 3, and I thought that they randomized the rest.
Yeah, I'm not sure how it's going.
That sounds logical.
I
have absolutely zero information. I feel like this should have been something I would have researched. I'm sorry, but I'm just gonna trust Ryan's insight right there. Yeah, no, I believe you. But assuming that is the case, do we think there's a possibility for Vitality, Splice, or Mind Freak to win a match?
I think they can only beat Elevate.
It's going to be really tough. I think just because of how behind their scenes are. It's not that there aren't good players. Like, I've been watching and casting the Oceanic scene, and they're smart in the sense that they understand team fire and map control and how to like take fights, and they're not ultra aggressive. Like, they're good at team fire, which I think is an asset, and knowing how to control the map. But when it comes down to how North American teams play, they're a little bit more aggressive when it comes to it. We don't know how escalation tumbles. Like, people will have like at least 2 to 3 weeks to scrim on it before they get to the event. So it's kind of up in the air. Like, if one North American team doesn't show up and they don't play well at LAN, yes, I think that they can take. I think Splice has a better chance of beating a team than I would say Vitality, or just because they're in still North America, they're Latin America, so they've played against the teams before, so they have a little bit more experience. But I mean, it comes down to what they're going to do. I think each team has good individual players. I don't know how that's going to translate over, though.
I've watched some of the Australian matches. I think that they will be the weakest of like the 3 other regions. I actually think Vitality is far and away the best of the 3 regions. I think Vitality can beat Elevate. And again, they'll probably get mad. They're young kids. They'll think I'm like shitting on them.
Oh my God, he's giving his honest critical opinion. Holy shit, I should tweet at him. That'll fix it.
I don't think that Vitality, again, Vitality is much more skilled than those teams. I don't think Vitality can beat a team led by Excels, because I think a team by Excels will have too much teamwork and coordination, and they don't do well against that. I don't think Splice. I don't know. Maybe it's hard to say. I don't think Australia can beat anyone, to be honest. And they may prove me wrong. I don't think Australia can beat anyone. I think, I just think you're going to see a top 4 of the 4 North American teams with the 3 qualifying, and then NRG. And then I think maybe you'll see Vitality and Elevate 5th, 6th, and then Splice and Australia 7, 8.
Have we heard the tournament format for what they're doing yet? Like, is it best of, like, are they running best of 1s? Are they doing best of 3s? Like, do we have any idea what the...
I'm going to guess best of 3.
Best of 3, double it and straight back right in, or is it going to be like a group play? No, they won't. I don't know.
I understand every like escalation matches take between 25 and 45 minutes per map. If it takes 45 per map and you got 3 of those, that starts to get up there in time.
Everything
But
would probably be BO3 then in that case.
I don't
yeah,
ever see his best of
I don't think
fives or
anything,
anything.
yeah, I don't think best of 5 can ever
No.
happen. It's gonna be a matter of maybe like the finals will be best of. I don't know.
That would still. I'm like
I
we
hate the
we
idea of
talked
best of
again.
5.
Yeah, we talked about this fucking last week as well. But like, it was the one day I watched 3 league series. All of them were 5 game series, best of 5. All went to 5 games, and it was literally 18 hours of my day straight watching League of Legends, and it was great. I loved it because I love watching League, and they're all phenomenal games. But holy shit, I couldn't imagine being a player in one of those series. Like I would have been done. Like I'm sitting here, like going and grabbing a drink. Like I went to the bathroom like 3 or 4 times over the course of this thing, and these guys are still up on stage. I'm like, no way.
Yeah.
So last thing I want to touch on, and now that we kind of, I don't want to say like gave our predictions, but gave our insights, thoughts on the teams going to the Invitational. Uh, who are the players who we should be looking for post Invitational? Who do we think are players, teams, individuals who have a talent who might be able to prosper, whether it's because of the strategic nature of the gears, because of their slaying prowess in a respawn game type, just because of the people they've put themselves around? Who are some of the people we should be looking out for as we come into Gears of War 4? Like, we are right there, gentlemen. We are about 2 weeks away. So we need to, these are the people we should be keeping an eye on. Ryan, anybody come to mind?
Are you talking about outside of the top 8 teams that qualify?
Outside the people going to the qualifier, yes.
Um, I am curious to see how Chubbs does.
Oh yeah.
That Fly Society team.
I don't think his supporting cast does him as justice. Again, I could be wrong, but I know they're playing with a couple guys who've been out of the game for quite some time. I'm curious to see Chubbs. I mean, you got to look at Terror and Infinity. That's going to be interesting. I'm probably most excited to see how the Insanes do. They're the wild card in my opinion. Escalation. It doesn't necessarily skill doesn't you don't necessarily need to be as skilled to win escalation, and so they've been out of the game for a long time as well. I don't think they're going to come back and know how to play Gears the way it's been played for the last few years. Some of the moves, some of the aggressiveness. So I'm curious to see how they get a hold of it. They could get really good at the game type and be really, really good. I don't know, but those are the ones I'm curious to kind of see the most, just because teams like the Insanes have been, so good at coordination, right? They were kind of almost ahead of their time with
They
how
were
coordinated they
scary
were,
disciplined. Like, it
right?
was, oh.
And that's going to be important now. So I'm really curious. I think they're my team I'm watching out for the most.
Waldo, what do you got?
Outside, I'm curious to see what Terror and Infinity comes back and does. Like I agree, I think Terror, like, this kind of suits everything that we've always said about Terror, about in-game leader, shot calling. Like, he understands map control from the conversations I've had from him, like, on a very deep level. So that's interesting in that sense. Players outside of that, I'm kind of interested. Like, this is, again, it falls back to, like, I kind of want to see what MBN does, like with Wildy and Prospect in prison, see what they do. Like, I kind of curious to see that as well and see how they translate over. I really want to see the older guys come back and kind of throw it together. Hopefully Scar can find a team too. I think that would be.
Yeah, not to make this all about like the OGs. Actually, I actually think MBN is going to be really good at the new game.
Yeah.
I think Shane is going to really excel with escalation.
Prison as well.
And we'll say, well, Prison and Wildy have been like the two like OGs outside of obviously like Fran, who have taken to like the new play style the most, in my opinion. And so I think they're already pretty much there in terms of like knowing how to play the game again. Like everyone else currently does.
Right. Well, I mean, Prison never stopped playing. He was still moderately competing. He took
Prison
like
and
half
Wildy
the
were in the
season
pro league.
off. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he still had the whatever how many year hiatus.
Yeah.
But they were in the pro league. Like I said, even in the qualifier, they were pushing teams to map 5. Some very winnable series they could have had in the qualifiers. So I think actually they're going to be. I don't know who their 5th is. They keep not announcing their 5th. But assuming their 5th is someone else that fits them, I think actually MBN could very easily break into the top 6.
Yeah, I think so as well. One of the teams, obviously, who didn't get brought up, that new E6 team. I think they look pretty scary. I'm not gonna lie. Don't get me wrong. Like, Poseidon, absolutely phenomenal player, but Noxious and Crushmo are just tanks. They are
Yeah.
absolute tanks.
Ox's been a monster on any roster he's been on. Like, that dude just shows up when it matters, and it's just like,
Osby's probably one of the best players in the game at being able to play any role he needs to play. Some players, a ton of players aren't able to play a role outside their comfort zone, and so that's something that Osby's very, very good at. He's fit many roles in the past, and he can excel at all of them. So I think he has that going for him. Crushmo, one of the most skilled players in the game, in my opinion, incredibly skilled. The only concern I have really for them when I saw this change are some more of like it's going to come down to like personality stuff. How certain players react to other players in game, how attitudes collide, if they collide, how they deal with adversity, just stuff like that. Because I think personality wise, they were the old D6 team was really, really close, and they knew each other very, very well, and so that stuff never really became a problem. So that's the only thing I could see really harming them. I mean, obviously on paper it's a pretty good roster, so I think you can't really say anything bad about picking up those two players on paper.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a potential for a volatile situation when it comes to attitudes in that situation. If, and I'm going to put the big disclaimer, if they fall behind. Because every single one of those players, when they're playing with a lead, is gross. Like, very minimal attitude problems. Like, they're very scary players when they're rolling with confidence. But on the flip side of that, uh, Eternity, Affinity. I can't speak to Hudson's. I don't know. I haven't seen him. Noxious, Crush Mode. The other four, if they tend to start falling behind, if they lose a fight in a spot, if people give up an advantage, I think you're very right in your assessment when that could be a potential bad situation for them because it could end up snowballing out of control. And I'm not necessarily sure I see a definitive leader there who can stop that and really solidify them. I think that's going to come down more to who they have in place as their support structure in terms of coach, analyst, and what's E6 is going to provide them with. You brought up Chubbs. Chubbs was originally looking to play with Drix, Razil, Baird, and somebody else. Now it's back to that old Fly Society team with Regulate, Fatalize, Baird, and
Surfew.
Yes, Surfew as well.
Yeah,
So I'm up and down. Like everybody in the entire community loves Chubbs, number one, and two, knows he is a absolutely ridiculous player. Baird is solid. Surfew used to be a tank online. I thought there was that drop off translating over to LAN, and I felt like it was the nerves type of drop off from him. He didn't seem like the player who'd always show up and perform in those instances. He was all right, but he wasn't the oh my god, that's Surfew pushing me with his pistol. I need to run away, which was the situation when you often played him online. That team though, they have this weird bond when they play together. Like I've been in party chat with them before. Like I've played against them. They just like kind of like mesh. Yeah, it's one of those things where I could see that being a situation where everything just kind of clicks for them. Escalation is a game type where big slayers, that type of teamwork, and just outright chemistry and like that coordination can just win. Like that's what it looks like to me, at least from my perspective. And I think that might be a group of 5 players who just fit together on a whole level. So I'm actually really excited to see them play. So I'd say Fly Society with Chubbs and E6 with the addition of Crushmo and Noxious are my two. That's everything I had on the docket that I wanted to talk about. Do you gentlemen have any closing thoughts before we sign off?
My only thing is like the players that have kind of fallen out of favor from the Gears 3 that were like super dominant because the synergy teams kind of all split up, but like has anybody heard what like Yogurt or Nasty are going to end up doing? Because
what I was going to say, watch out for Phobia in Gal 4.
Oh, is he coming back?
Is he actually playing?
Phobia's playing again, and Phobia was one of the smarter Gears 3 players. So I think he will land himself on a good team. Maybe not in the beginning, but he'll land himself on a good team. He was very good. Kind of got the shit end of the stick in a couple situations, it sounded like, team-wise. So I think that he will be a good player to watch out for, too.
Yeah, no, Phobia was a very good player. Actually, I'd totally forgotten that he just fell the fuck off the pitch.
I thought either Yogurt or Nasty. I thought it was Yogurt. I thought someone was on the Elevate team.
Somebody was. They were like switching spots, and then from whatever the rumors were, they were like.
Don't be surprised. see, yeah, one of those kids might end up on Elevate.
Yeah, I don't ever pay attention to
Yeah.
that. I let Melly report on that. That's his stick.
Yeah, I yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I'm excited. Gears 4 is very, very close. Very excited to go to the launch event. Just after that, we have the open before we know it. After that, and then just before we know after that, there's
Start and then
there's so many.
start trying to fly around.
So many lands coming up.
Assuming you guys maintain your seat at the top. I think you'll be all right. I'm relatively confident that you guys will be able to be pushing for one of those top spots all season. All right, well, that's going to be it. Episode 4 in the books. Thank you for joining us. This is again Full Red. I was kind enough to be joined by Ryan. Any last words, buddy? What do you got?
Thanks for having me, guys. Had a good time. Like shout out to obviously Team Envious, all the Envy fans. Shout out to my teammates, the Gears community. We got a big year coming ahead of us, so I'm excited.
Waldo, thank you very much again for the co-host and your opinions. What do you got for us? Anything interesting? What are you signing off with?
Thank God that there's able to spectate the game with a PC mouse and keyboard. That was like the greatest gift I've ever received. Like I don't care.
Yeah,
I was like, I don't
really
care
cool.
I don't care about anything else. I can just hop in private matches.
Like,
now.
I get hotkeys. Yes.
I get hotkeys, mouse and keyboard. Man, it's just way better than a controller.
I'm excited about that too. I'm hoping there's more support in those kind
of.
Oh,
dude, I didn't even think about that from a coaching aspect.
Yeah,
just being able to spectate from a PC and then record directly your perspective directly to OBS. Oh.
Yep. I said that to Ashes too. Yeah, we'll get into that'll be a tangent for another time.
Yeah, I'll get into something else. All right, guys, I'm Sundown. I want to give a real special shout out. I just obviously left / was dropped from Raw Talent or whatever, but real shout out to the homie Atomic. That is one kid I wanted to give as like an underrated player, someone who's come up. I know Kenny went through this shit a little bit at Columbus, but the dude is a monster. Regardless of who he ends up playing with or who ends up going around talent or whatever, I expect him to be going off wherever he plays. So thank you very much. Make sure to like, subscribe, check out our videos, and peace.